Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to Ceremonial Witchcraft. I am Corey LeBlanc, and like I said, on Instagram it's Corey White, and on Facebook, I don't have fucking Facebook because every time I make a page, they fucking put me in suspended or delete my. They don't delete my account, but they tell me that bullshit line that for my security, I won't be able to log in. Well, first they tell me to send a picture, and then yeah. But anyways. I don't have Facebook, but on YouTube, it's Ceremonial Witchcraft and Corey LeBlanc. And Ceremonial Witchcraft, all one word or all together. The two words are all like one word. .com, lowercase, or even uppercase will work, but it's generally lowercase, is my website, which basically all just comes back to the whole Spreaker thing. Instagram might be the only place where there might be a few different videos. Obviously, YouTube has videos on it as well that aren't my Spreaker stuff, but generally, the bulk of what I do is here on Spreaker, talking about magic. The earlier stages of this, I talked about magic, how to do maybe the initiation stuff, and mostly what I did was refer to what I learned and who I learned it from, which would be Frater Xavier, Mind and Magic, the free stuff he offers on YouTube, and he's got a bunch of paid programs you can buy that I believe are super beneficial, but I've never done because I've never had to do, because I take the free advice I get and then I meditate and then I get the wisdom and I do what works for me, and it's been working. But if you don't have that yet and you want to learn more, then he can help guide your way. And another person, if you're leaning towards more of the witchcraft than the ceremonial magic, would be Birch, Freakville 1309. The YouTube page has got a wealth of information on there. And you know, he still does Ask Uncle Birches. He also has paid programs such as Year and Day course, where you can do a full correspondence, get all the videos and do it at your own pace, do it super fast, super slow, somewhere in the middle. Or I think now he said he's actually going to re-offer the actual Year and a Day course, I believe, which is, you know, if there was ever something I'd be interested in, would be probably would be to take Birch's Year and a Day, his way of teaching witchcraft. And, you know, he says he doesn't teach Palo or anything like that, but you know some of the stuff, because that's the thing I like about Birch. He's got so much knowledge and so many things that his brand of witchcraft that he's going to teach you is going to be all of those things that he's put together in this nice little package that over the years he's experimented with, and some things perfected, some things maybe still experimenting, some things just discovered. Point is, you're going to get so many different things that, you know, maybe later on when you go to discover other traditions, you're going to already know it, and it's because Birch knew it, so you know it. So he's another person I would totally check out. But my earlier videos, that's what they were about. They were about, you know, Kabbalah, the Great Work of Self-Transformation, which was the book I used. Now, Initiation to Hermetics is another book I read, which is great. I never actually done the full curriculum, but I have taken a lot of things out of there, and examples I've given were how to brush your dead skin off, you know, rub your skin till it's pink, basically, with a cloth, blessed food and water, there's so much more, but there's a lot of different things I've taken from there as well, which is why I call another reason to say it's ceremonial witchcraft, because witchcraft to me, and this isn't all inclusive and it isn't what witchcraft is, but witchcraft to me implies, you know, a big variety of magics all blended together for the person's purpose. You know, someone who practices ceremonial magic, it doesn't mean they just use ceremonial magic. Like I said recently enough, that Frater Xavier in his uncrossing bath ritual video, he says that it's not a ceremonial magic per se, it's from hoodoo, but he says it's absolutely essential. So, anyways, so that's what my earlier videos are about, is Kabbalah, Great Work of Self-Transformation, and the initiation course, or sorry, the full curriculum from I'm trying to think of the final one. I know the first one is you know, your neophyte grade, right? But I'm trying to think of the last one, the name of the last one, and I can't. I'm drawing a blank, but it's got a cool name too. Not Selter, not anyways, but anyways, so what I did was I went through, lesser banishings and why you do it. I went through middle pillar, why you do it. I went through grounding and why you do it. And then I went over programming your subconscious mind, why to do it, how to do it, how to identify and remove it, different tricks and tips that I've used. And then I went over different sigil magics I've used to manifest money. I went over the new age things I did before I got into ceremonial magic and witchcraft, such as just, like the new age, law of attraction is the word I'm looking for. Write down what you want, basically writing a script of what your life is to be in the future, or as if it's in the past, not in the past, but as if it's already happened, basically. And then I went over something I learned from Birch, the no negative speak. I went over to negative ions and healing and electricity for your body. I went over different breathing, the science of breath, and I've put a bunch of different books on here. So initially I went over a bunch of things. I went over the moon. I went over a lot of different planetary magics. I went over a lot of astrology. I'm still re-going over some of these things, and I'm just fine-tuning them. But lately I've been more on Jordan Peterson and Dark Night of the Soul, shadow work kind of things. I've had a political video, well, not really political, just my opinion on something or what I think is going on, and I hope I'm absolutely wrong about that. But anyways, so the most latest video I put out was supposed to be about shadow work, divination, and then I went over how the 7 hermetic principles are very important. Maybe that was 2 videos ago, but my latest video was about being agreeable and disagreeable. So men are more disagreeable and women are more agreeable. And then I stated that I am a man, I am heterosexual, I am married, I have 4 kids in a house and 2 vehicles, and the house and the 2 vehicles were part of a manifestation. You go on YouTube and I talk about that in the video. Fuck. Sorry, I'm still tired and getting over this little bug. It's amazing because I've been able to keep it at bay because, whenever you have, not to get gross, but when you have phlegm, snot, mucus, whatever you want to call it, that is like a green yellow, okay, as a sign of infection. Now there's a pasty white, that's a sign of a virus, and I may have those confused. And then there's clear, and that means you're fine. And, because back in the day, they didn't have things that we had. And, I mean, once again, this is something I learned, so take it with a grain of salt. Who knows what's real and what's not real. But the doctors tell you this easy way, and, like even kings used to have someone examine their stool, examine their urine, examine their sweat, examine their spit, examine their snot, examine everything that they possibly could to maintain their health and find early signs of something happening, basically. So this is one of those ways of doing that. And I've had my throat pretty sore recently, and I've had like I said, the color of the snot mucus, and I've had like the body aches and pain whenever you get in that cold, but I haven't had any fever. So if I do have some type of infection, because I'm pretty sure the color associated with the mucus that I have is infection. So, because people might be like, well, he says Himalayan sea salt is the cure for that. And it is. There's so much information out there on that putting that into your water a bunch of times a day, juice, whatever, on your food, is how you do that. And one of the reasons is, another trick is, if you have like the big coarse pieces of Himalayan sea salt, you could probably use it with the fine stuff already chopped up. But the big ones, if you put a couple of those in your mouth, and then, let your mouth salivate and, drink that down with a little bit of water, that hydrates you like almost immediately. You can say, well, how is that? Well, I've already been over how adding salts to water, especially a good salt like Himalayan pink sea salt, is electricity. Okay. I've already went over that in detail. So you're adding electricity to your body, and why are electrolytes good when you're dehydrated? Well, because they hydrate your body. Well, what are electrolytes? Well, electrons, electricity. That's what it is. So this is what you're doing, basically. You're getting it right at the source, right? Anyways, so I forget where the fuck I was going. Oh yeah. So people might think, well, if he says all this is the cure, then how can we be sick? Well, here's the thing. I've caught an infection. An infection normally gives you at least for 12 to 24 hours a fever, and I haven't had said fever. And I've been doing certain things, magical things with, similar to what I just told you that kings do with certain things, and neutralizing certain things, and making sure I do everything else right in between, because I haven't really lost my appetite. Sometimes I'm not as hungry as I normally would be, but I've been drinking a fuckload and doing everything right, and now my mucus is I know it's a gross topic, so I am sorry, but it's gone, and that's without any antibiotic. That's without any medication whatsoever. And my throat's still a little sore. I'm still a little horsey. I still have a little bit of phlegm, but it's all clear. I don't have the color anymore, which is amazing, and I never got to the fever. So just because I didn't avoid being completely broken down, and once again, I said it's the cure for like the common cold, and for an abundance of like mucus or phlegm and snot and stuff like that. Now, my snot and phlegm that I had a color, meaning I had an infection. Something was infected, and that was the byproduct of the infection. So probably, most likely, a throat infection, being that's where it was coming from. And I was able to get rid of it with just what I was doing. Now, to me, the pink Himalayan sea salt and water isn't the cure for an infection. However, they do. I mean, one of the things I've learned with piercings, salt and sore throat in general as well, to gargle warm water and salt, and spit it out after. Well, I'm not spitting it out. I'm fucking swallowing it with juice. It's not always warm, but you know what I mean? So, point I'm trying to get at, I guess, is that I'm still a little broken down, but it could have been a lot worse because I did everything right. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I am absolutely, positively grateful for that. These fucking little fucking bugs are fucking everywhere. They're trying to come in out of the fucking cold. And they're driving me crazy. Sorry, we got these little orange and black fucking bugs all around my house there lately, and they're all around my door. I call them Saturn bugs, but I know flies are more partial and more acute and for Saturn, because the fly is something that Saturn, it's a Saturn energy. I learned that from Frater. Anyways, haven't really done any looking up of that actual look that up to know if that's true or false. But what I'm saying is, because they're black and orange. Orange is a color associated with Archangel Raphael. Yeah, Raphael. It would be orange, and he's in the east, which is yellow, but anyways, which is associated with Mercury more than it would be Saturn, but because it's black and orange, right? So it's air. That's why I call it a Saturn bug. And I've never seen these bugs before, but yeah, they have a crazy way of being able to get in my house somehow. That drives me crazy. They're harmless. They don't do anything. They don't bite. They don't sting. They don't do nothing, as far as I know. They just kind of fly around, and they're not very even good at flying, to be honest. I don't think, anyways. And I try my best not to kill anything. Now, I do draw the line sometimes in my house. Now, I'll do my best not to kill them if it's if it's a harmless bug, anything like a mosquito to a bee to a horsefly is something I would consider not harmless, and not that it would kill you, but it can hurt your kids. It could hurt you, technically. A very small amount of hurt. I'm not a big fan of bees. Everybody, I think I've told everybody that story, but getting stung in the eye as a child. But anyways, that's besides the point. So I got rid of my sickness just with, doing what I teach on here, which is pretty cool. Sorry, excuse me. But anyways, and that was the reason I stopped that conversation the other night. But this is some of the things I've went over, and I'm kind of going into... So I'm re-going into some of the things as, maybe my knowledge or my ideas progress, or as they come to me, or as something kind of just pops up and says, hey, this is important, you should say something about this. So that's what I do. But last time I put something on there, I got into the whole I got into the whole negative. The negative, my birth chart, anyways, is filled with negative fucking planets, and my planets are in the negative signs, which means female signs, if you're going by gender, or flow, or electricity, or whatever. So the two female planets I have are actually in male signs. All right, so I'm not completely female. So maybe that might have been the difference. Maybe that would be some kind of difference if it came to, my sex or whatever. And, people can argue that it has nothing to do with that. It's all biology and all that. But how do you can maybe look at that and see it. Probably not. But if all my signs would have been female signs, and I had a man body, let's say, and even my female planets were in the female signs, right? Let's say, how it worked out like that. Well, then maybe that would make my preference, my sexual preference, female, but it's not. It's male, but it's not. It's female. I'm married, so. And I was getting into that, and I was going into the moon, and I got into how flow and all that, and I was doing it on the way home, but then once I got home that night, I kind of not broke down, but I took a Tylenol, cold and flu, the nighttime one. Not by accident, but I figured I was going to be able to go on and record, and then I got too drowsy. I postponed it, procrastinated, got too drowsy, so then I came on. It's like a 30-second thing, said I was going to keep going, but I can't, and it just ended my show. So, I don't really have any ideas for today. I don't even know if I'm going to put this on, but I'm going to see where it goes. And that's what I'm going to start with, is the continuation on that. So before I keep going with the whole bit of negative, or before I get back to the moon, the waxing and the waist, so then I came on. It's like a 30-second thing, said I was going to keep going, but I can't, and it just ended my show. So I don't really have any ideas for today. I don't even know if I'm going to put this on, but I'm going to see where it goes. And that's what I'm going to start with, is the continuation on that. So before I keep going with the whole bit of negative, or before I get back to the moon, the waxing and the waning, and using your energy and flow and all that, I'm just going to backtrack it a bit back to the birth chart and the negative. If someone has those negative energies, and how that means it can mean way more than if you're agreeable or disagreeable, and it can mean more than. I was just using Jordan Peterson because his information isn't exactly esoteric or occult or anything magic or witchcraft, but like anything else, you can find the occult and esoteric in his stuff. If I was to come out on if I had his level of stature, let's say, being a university teacher from Harvard and University of Toronto and all that. Let's say he is into a magical system. But if he came out and openly said that, then all the stuff he's doing, all the good he's doing, would probably not. He'd probably still have an effect, but it wouldn't be as profound as the effect he's having now. So I could see him holding something like that back. And I'm not saying he is or isn't. That's none of my business. I don't care. I think what he's doing is great. The way he breaks down the Bible and doesn't take it literally is amazing. I think it's a good way to look at it. It's a good way to get people to not just throw the baby out with the bathwater like everything else. And I'm not pro or against Bible. Once again, I think it's absolutely appalling what they have done and how they, let's believe in this book, but they don't make anybody read it, and they rather you not read it, because if you read it, you find things that contradict it, and they rather you just go to church and listen to the fucking priest pick and choose what passages he wants you to know, basically. So that tells you a lot right there, because then when you question it, and they don't have an answer for you, or if you're to ask about King Solomon and all the sacrifices he's done with incense and candles, and we should do that in our basement. No. This was before Christ came, so people didn't know what to do, and now that Christ came and told us what to do, that's all we got to do. That's just in there because, it's important, because that's the family line that came down. No, okay, fuck you. Bullshit. I call bullshit on that. I really do. After Christ passed away, his apostles kept the fucking rituals going, the breaking of the bread and all that, and the fucking drinking and the going into public and speaking, and covens and whatever. They probably kept doing their little fucking thing, right? Which eventually became our church. But point is, these people got together and did that. And they like to make you believe that it was probably just Peter initially, because Peter was, St. Peter is Jupiter. But they try to make you believe that Peter was the one that was only the priest and everybody else listened to him. But I guarantee you they all fucking took turns doing things. They all did it together, it's not what you think. That's the parts of the Bible that I don't agree with. And once again, Peter is Jupiter. Okay? And whether you want to believe that book was written to help us understand our life, kind of like a map, and, these are the struggles of life. Well, someone like Jordan Peterson is important because he takes those stories and he kind of interprets it into today's meaning. So, like, if you were to take the Bible in its entirety and change it to all those people, let's say that Old Testament would be from 1970 to 1999, and then Christ would be from 2000 to 2020 coming up, or 2050 or whatever. If you were to take that book and write it like that, okay, there'd be a hell of a lot of differences. Probably wouldn't sound the same at all. And that's kind of what the church wants you to believe is why they did all these different redos and fucking up the Bible and messing it up and reinterpreting it and restructuring it and changing the words around and shit like that. And, maybe some of it is that. But then there's some people that just came along and literally didn't want people to do, what they call witchcraft. But, who knows if witchcraft was something that was created, a name that we keep now to this day. But maybe witchcraft was initially what Christ and his apostles were doing. What initially King Solomon and the Jews that before them came and did. And now all that stuff is what the church does behind our back, the elites do behind our back. They don't want us to do, so we're called witchcraft, and they're doing whatever. Anyways, that's kind of confusing, but the point of what I'm trying to say is I think people like Peterson who take the Bible and try to flip it and tell you the psychological meaning of the story, because it is an esoteric metaphor or simile, parable. Basically, it's to teach you something, so there's a meaning in it. So to get a psychiatrist, psychologist, one of those psychiatric fucking doctors or whatever you want to call them, to interpret it and put it kind of in a newer lingo for people to understand, a new language, a new setting, a more modern, up-to-date setting, and I guess setting's the right word, to understand. And you can do away with all the stupidity of, to not suffer, a witch to live and shit like that, because there's no reason to put that in there. If Christ and these people that are in the Bible were actually, people of God and the Son of God and all that, they wouldn't kill anybody. Christ, when they were going to fucking stone that prostitute, I think it was anyways, or maybe I think it was a prostitute. Anyways, they're going to stone somebody, and Christ saw it happening, and he said, okay, if you are without sin, this is paraphrasing, but if you don't have any sin, or he who without sin should be the one to shoot the first stone. Basically saying, everybody here fucking makes mistakes, but yet we're ready to condemn this girl for her mistakes, And not only are you guys making mistakes, you lie about it, pretend you don't make these mistakes. So you're making probably more than her. At least she owns what she is and does, But anyways, so you know what I mean? So technically, if Christ does that, then why would Christ want to kill fucking magicians and witches? So it's complete nonsense and bullshit. It's just there to fuck with you. So those things you just got to do away with. But anyways, so point is, someone like Peterson is important, and I don't think he needs someone like me to interpret his stuff magically or anything like that. I think everybody can do that themselves, but this is the kind of thing I like doing specifically and like talking about and shit like that. And I've did so much with Frater and Perch already that I really, because I really respect those guys. I want to risk pissing them off by keep uploading and playing their voices on my fucking podcast. That if they ever hear it, they get upset, and if they say something, about me or insult me or he's telling me I'm wrong or whatever, then, potentially, it's going to hurt coming from somebody that I adore, or not adore, but somebody I look up to, someone who's helped me, because I don't worship anybody, not even the gods themselves. I don't worship the planets. I don't worship anything, but I am grateful and I honor them and I give them shit. And I understand that, whether I think about it as they are evolved beings who are once maybe similar to me and just kept going up the hierarchy, you know what I mean? Or if they're just energies, and really it's a combination of those two, plus the fact that I can't comprehend what they are, but I'm not going to worship it because I don't know exactly what it is. All I can know is the information I'm given, and Saturn and Mars have these negative connotations on them, and I don't even like that about anything that should be godly. But at the same sense, you need to understand dark things to know light things, and you need to incorporate that in your life so it does make sense. But anyways, point is, I wouldn't want one of my mentors to fucking, be very upset with me, and so I'm trying not to. But then I'm doing with Pearson over and over again, playing his shit, but he's got a lot of shit up there, right? So, and he makes a lot of money too. I mean, fucking Christ. And he's got more followers and viewers than, Birch and fucking Frater. So I'm not saying that he wouldn't care either. And I hope to God, I don't offend him either because he's helped me out greatly. But I don't worship any of these people. I am grateful and I honor them, But they may not look at it that way. So I'm trying to lay off and just trying to teach them my own words. But, it's kind of like citing your work. And I guess you could just throw the links up after. But what if people don't go see the links or hear the links? You know what I mean? So, I don't know. Man, that's something I got to work out. But anyway, so his stuff is very important. And it's a testament to you what reading and writing can make a person become. Yes, he's a college professor. Yes, he's older. Yes, he's done this. But he literally says it that, you don't have to go to university to be smart. All you have to do is start reading these books. And then when you start writing, especially, you don't even have to have the knowledge yet. You can just start writing, and that's going to help you formulate ideas faster. Rappers become better and better at freestyling the more they write, which is kind of weird, right? But it's like what I said in that one video, that the more you write, the more you organize your thoughts. The more and it's kind of like accepting and rejecting your thoughts as well, but the more you don't have thoughts in your head that don't serve you, that confuse you, and the more you think about specific things, even if it's like 100 to 1,000 different things, okay? If you write about all these things, technically, you're creating like memory spaces in there for you. So if you go against an argument or in a rap battle against somebody who doesn't write a lot, who just thinks they might have a chance to beat you or whatever they think. I don't know. Maybe they think they know a few rap songs and they're just going to pull from that, or they think they just make simple rhymes. I don't know. But if you go against somebody like that, well, all those 1,000 things that you remember, whether it's an argument or all those 1,000 songs you've written down or created or made, are all going to be there ready to use because you've had them anchored there, where somebody else like that is going to be overwhelmed with, well, what you're doing, first of all. Like, holy fuck, this guy's better than I thought. How am I going to cope with this, which is automatically going to stunt his ability to go against you. And then not only that, he's going to have all these other ideas in his head, and he's going to be trying too hard to, and he's not going to have the discipline, organization, or any of that crap. So reading and writing is super important. And I would say that goes without saying, especially for magic, because if any system that I've looked into, when I really only, practice ceremonial magic mostly, and anything else that's not that basically is what my claim to witchcraft is. And it's just, like I said, my grandma was a witch, and it's one of the ways I honor her. And there's a lot of things that I learned from her. And like I said, I've tried the whole coven thing, but my town is too small for that, and I got to get to a bigger town or do something online. And that's why I said if I'm ever to do something, it would be the year and a day with Birch, to be honest. So something I'm going to look into. But yeah, and I like putting Peterson on here, or I think people, because you can see him, go against people, and it's absolutely amazing. The amount of knowledge he has is just amazing. And I know this is true and works because, whether it's that, my reading and writing, whether it's all the different sigils and spells and offerings I gave to Mercury / Thoth, slash Hermes and asking for their wisdom, then I know it's real, because there's nothing that anybody throws at me that I don't have correspondences for, or answers for, or, solutions for. It's crazy. It's like it's always there, and I don't even have to have it ready to go. Like, I walk around, something happens, and boom, I know something, and it's like, I didn't know that, but as the person said what they said, I had a response for it. Not like, and I'm listening to them, right? I'm listening to the people as they talk. So it's not a matter of me, like, being one of those people that are, while the other person's talking, I'm thinking of what I'm going to say, and not actually listening, because that's not the case at all. I really listen to people. I got that info from Birch, I think Birch may have said it, but Frater talks about it, and Peterson talks about it. A lot of people talk about it. It's part of the whole excuse me, it's part of the whole silence vow you take. And part of the silence vow is to shut your conscious mind / ego up when other people are talking, and don't assume that you're right and stuff like that, and just be silent and actually listen to people. And when I've done that, it's something I actually haven't went over yet, so maybe I'll go over that today. But I went through that, and I didn't do a whole year, but I did a good. And I mean, this isn't completely straight, because, if you're working or have a family, kids, you can't just not talk. But I mean, when it comes to things like with my wife, that I would normally jump and just dismiss her, or, something that she wants me to do that maybe I should do, but I have an argument and I can go against her with, that I would normally use, that I do now. But during my, I don't know, I want to say 6 to 8 months, but probably only 6, maybe only 5. But during that, let's just say 5 months. During that 5 months there, where I was doing that vow of silence, I mean, I learned a lot. And half the things that I had to do that I didn't want to do, that I would normally find an argument for to get out of, or a reason to get out of, that I ended up doing, was actually something that I didn't mind doing, And that told me that, the anxiety and the thoughts that came into my head whenever somebody suggested something or said, hey, want to do this? And instead of me finding an argument or a reason to get out of it, I went along and did it. But whenever they suggest it, I would have all these preconceived notions of how it's going to go. And, maybe it's because the whole empath thing, whatever, but because I am maybe sensitive to energies, or just being an agreeable person that, sometimes can be taken advantage of. So sometimes it's easier not to go out, stuff like that. I would have these preconceived notions that, no, this is going to suck. But 9 times out of 10, it didn't suck. Go out there and, do whatever and have a good time. So I was actually really grateful and thankful that that shit worked out like that. And I learned a lot. And once I started answering and talking and doing that again, because like the vow of silence was, and it's something I maintain always. Like, I have the vow of silence to not talk about magic to anybody. And it's just a personal vow that I made, because when I initially got into it, started listening to Frater and Birch, I was so excited about the information, especially when I had my first successes, that I couldn't shut up. And I was just telling my wife all these different things that she didn't care about, or didn't believe, or thought I was crazy. And, it didn't do any good at all, telling her this shit. And, at the same sense, sometimes, like, I'd be preaching at her to the point where, I was, like I said a long time ago, and like I learned this the hard way, so don't take any offense to this, but if you're one of those people that go around trying to say, hey, you have the way, and your way is the best, and you should do this, and you should transform, change your life, and magic is real, and stop watching TV, and stop eating animals or meat or whatever, then, you're basically putting off to other people that you have all the answers, that you know everything, that you're the smart ass motherfucker guru, whatever, and that they need to change, and they're insufficient, and they lack. There's something wrong about them, but yet you're the one that changed, not them. You used to be like them, you used to get along with them, and now all of a sudden you're different, and you're trying to tell them that they're not as good as you, and that's not exactly what you're doing, but that's the way it's coming off. People aren't going to change until they're ready to change, and that's why I went over this, actually, I think a few times, but so that was one of the reasons I did the vow of silence, because I felt like I was being too hard on my wife, and she went, anytime I had, like, I went over all our fighting and stuff like that not that long ago, and that was probably one of the reasons. And this vow of silence thing that I took was pretty recent anyways too, but it's because of all the preaching and all that, because of, me acting like I'm better. And I was just thinking I wanted what's best for my family, best for my wife. I want her to be on the same path as me, because I don't want her to have to keep reincarnating. I want us to move on to the next plane together because, I fucking love her. I married her, I love her with all my heart. So that was my intention. That's what I wanted. This is one of the reasons why intention isn't everything. Like Birch keeps saying, because it's not. My intention was a good one, but it had this shitty outcome to the point where she was upset every time I was listening to my stuff. So it wasn't until I shut up, stopped preaching completely, all right, and started doing stuff with her on the regular, going for walks and doing all these different things that I put myself in uncomfortable places. Another thing I learned, but that now she doesn't care when I do that. She has her own shit. And it got through to her because I wanted her to find something she wants to do, to just do it, to love, and she doesn't have that necessarily, but she goes in between doing these house projects with the stuff we got, using her creative juices, making things for in the house, outside of the house, whatever, to going to the gym now. And, and that's some of the things I was preaching to her. You need a talent, you need a hobby, you need a talent, you need a hobby, you need to express yourself, blah, 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 blah. When I finally shut up and stopped telling her all that, then, she became happy. We weren't fighting anymore. I mean, obviously we still fight, but not even close to, because I have many videos out there talking about us fighting, and videos on YouTube after a fight talking about the fight and all that. And, it wasn't until I stopped fucking preaching and thinking I have all the answers and all that, that I fucking, everything I asked her to do, she did. She's even gone as far as doing visualizations and law of attraction shit and had results and was super excited about the results. And that alone helped her realize that the stuff I do, there may be some validity to it. So, yeah. So anyways, the vow of silence is a very important thing to do, especially if, you don't really have your ego in check or anything like that. Then I really advocate for that. But it's something you should do because you can learn a lot from people. And once again, saying that you have an open mind and that you... Oh, sorry, I was trying to let it smoke. Saying that you have an open mind and that you'll believe anything and listen to everything, and when it comes to YouTube and learning is awesome. It's definitely an important step. But then if you don't have that same perspective with your family members, your wife, kids, whoever, mom, dad, whoever you live with are always around, if you don't have that same perspective with them, then you really only have it for new information and things you think are valid, and you don't believe in your loved ones, that you don't think they're valid. You think their shit doesn't mean anything. And the people you listen to online, you don't know them from Adam, but these people are the people that you chose to spend your life with, that you live with, that you're bonded with for the rest of the life, and you're not going to listen to them or know what they think figures them out, because once again, if you truly want to help them, right, and please don't think I'm judging or trying to preach to anybody, because this is just something I learned through my own experience. And I learned it because I did everything the wrong and hard way first. But that's exactly what I did, right? I was trying to tell everybody what they should do. And it's all through my nervous system. It's all through my perceptions, through my brain, through my new programming / or old programming, that I'm trying to tell these people what to do when they've been programmed with their own programming and are not even interested in the stuff I'm interested in yet. I'm telling them what they should do according to my beliefs? No. But anyways, if you really want to help these people, then the first step is to listen to them, right? Like a psychiatrist does. What's the first thing they do? Well, they listen to the person, right? I mean, they ask them a question, but they keep asking them questions, but those questions are just mainly to get them to talk, to get them to open up, to get them to say what their issue is. And so by just listening to them, most of the time they say that people can work out their own problems, because people know what's bugging them. People know what's wrong. And if they just, because most of the time people just bury it, right? They'll think about it a little bit and they don't want to think about it, so they bury it. But then when they go to a psychiatrist, it's like, okay, I can finally open up about this. It's a safe place to do that. For some reason, that's the place where they go to give themselves permission to finally tackle it. And when they do, when they actually finally say it out loud instead of suppressing it, after they say it, 9 times out of 10, the answer is going to come to them. And they're going to say what they already know they should probably do, that they've never just realized because they've never actually went that far. You know what I mean? So by listening to somebody, they can figure out their own issues, their own problems, and you might not even have to do anything. And not only that, but let's say they don't have the problem. Well, if you truly listen to them, then maybe you can offer a solution. Or you can ask some questions and be like, okay, well, what do you think the issue is? What do you think, or if you don't know that, what do you think caused it? Why do you think that keeps happening to you? By asking simple things like that, they're going to give you insights. And, you can go from there to figure out what the fuck the problem is. And, and by just doing that, especially with your loved ones, instead of trying to preach and tell them what they need to do, by listening to them, then you can figure out what kind of person they are, and then maybe eventually figure out what's the best way to maybe try to get your point across when the time is right to get it across. Because if you can find a correspondence that'll work with them. Like for my wife, I can't just start fucking talking about spirits and all this, spirit energy stuff. She just thinks it's, nonsense. But when I relate it to nature or the kids or psychology or life, bills, cycles, stuff like that, when I do it in that kind of way, I mean, that's kind of vague. I'm trying to think of a good example to show you what I mean, but I don't really have one at the moment. But there's a certain way that I know now how to approach my wife about things that she'll understand. And it's not that she wouldn't understand the other way, but I wouldn't be able to get a couple words out that should just dismiss it and not even listen to it. You know what I mean? Because if someone starts talking to you and it's something you don't think is relevant, you don't really listen. Most people don't, right? And, maybe it would be something worth knowing or relevant, but the fact is that you never let the person get too far enough to even get there, right? And that's why a lot of people have to pick their words correctly before they start. That's why a lot of people, when they go to tell a story, they beat around the bush first. My kid does that whenever he's about to tell a lie. He sets the stage, goes back way and puts in all these different details that'll make him look like he's a better person, and then he drops the bad news or whatever, and that's something something most people do. They don't just come out and say, well, this. You know what I mean? Because most people be like, what? I'll have a reaction. Or, if it's something they don't believe in, they'll just walk away. But if you give context to it, then someone might be more likely to listen to it, unless they know your character. Then just know it's bullshit coming. But anyway, so that's something very important to know. I believe that's something very important to know and to be able to use. So when it comes to the vow of silence, you should definitely check out Frater's videos about it. Maybe Bert has some. I can't think of any offhand, but I'm sure he has something about silence in his stuff. And even if it's just, to know, to will, to dare, and to be silent, right? That's when you're doing your lesser banishing of the pentagram, right? What do you do after you make the pentagram? Whether way you make it, whether it's reverse or, witter shins or fucking sun watch, okay? One or the other, right? Well, after you fucking do the circle after it, you fucking 2 fingers through it, fucking both hands, right? The sign of the emperor and the sign of silence. Boom, boom, right? So, and that's to know, to will, to dare, and to shut up. It's the 4-sided, or the 3, well, it's the, what is that, the 4-sided pyramid, I guess? It's maybe like the 3 sides and then the bottom, I don't know. But anyways, so, Philosopher's Stone, something like that. Anyways, so the vow of silence is important. Now, maybe I'll go more in depth later on that. But what I really wanted to talk about again was the whole negative attributes, the negatives in your birth chart and stuff like that. But I'm not really going to go too much into that because I've already went into that. But it's just to begin the part I actually do want to talk about. Okay, so that's why. But I gotta move right now. I gotta go somewhere and do something while I speak to you. So right now I'm on the move in my house. But anyway, so it's been pretty cool actually. My kid came up to me today and said, "Hey, Corey, you got 40 followers on Instagram? Holy fuck! I don't have that many on my fucking YouTube or my fucking podcasts on Spreaker combined. Fuck." But whatever. Like I said, it's never been about that. I listen to a lot of things online, and there's very few people I subscribe to. If anybody's been on my YouTube page and they see a lot of video game stuff, I hope you don't know that's my kids. Pretty sure I said that a few times already before, that I let my kids use it, and One reason is because this way I can monitor through the history, um, more or less, right? I mean, yeah, they can go delete the history of things, but I'm on YouTube pretty frequently and almost everywhere. So yeah, they can delete something, but there's a way to check that too. But anyway, so any weird video game stuff on there, that's the kids. And anything spiritual or planetary or truth or, science, physical, psychological, magical, that's obviously me. But, oh fuck, where was I going with that? But anyways, yeah, he told me that, and I'm like, well, how did you know? Well, he's like, well, you came up on a recommended, and I thought that was kind of weird, and maybe it's because of the data, or we're from the same town and all that, but anyways, that's besides the point. So, today I want to talk about the same thing I talked about last time a little bit, the agreeable and disagreeable, and how it's important to know, because, once again, I haven't done the studies that I said I would do with the experiment. I would say I would do, but I gave you some examples like Peterson. He says that he's an agreeable person, right? And so it makes sense that he's out here doing these lectures, helping people, and he gets a lot of joy out of helping people. And Birch and Frater, and even Greg Braden said it, he's a Cancer. Wow, Birch. I just watched his recent Ask Uncle Birch. I actually just watched it today, the whole thing. It's pretty good too. He actually talked about something in there I want to touch on there, which is pretty cool. I like that he mentioned it, but he had something Cancer on his fuck cup. Was it Cancer Witch or something like that? It might have been Cancer Witch. But he says it in a few videos. I'm a Cancerian Witch. I'm going to know what you're thinking. And I had a video about this when it comes to empaths. If someone's saying they're an empath and they don't have a prominent water sign, okay, then they're probably not an empath. If they don't have any planets in any of the water signs, they're probably not an empath. And that's the thing, right? I got Jupiter in Pisces. I've got Pluto in my Scorpio. I have nothing in Cancer, but I have 2 houses in Cancer. My 3rd house and my 4th house are both in Cancer. Now, my moon is the other water sign. It's in Gemini. So that's in a plus, but it's with Venus as well. It's with another chick. So and with that one plus sign, I have 2 minuses, 2 negatives, 2 female signs there. 2 receptive signs, the minuses. The earth and the water receive things, right? Water, it absorbs water. You put it on a fire, it stops the fire, absorbs the fire, I guess, more or less. The earth does that. The water also does that, right? Water, you need it for life and shit like that, You put something in the earth and something will grow out of it. Well, that's kind of, something comes out of it, kind of like like a woman, right? You put sperm in her and a baby comes out, right? Or if no sperm goes in and makes a baby, well, then blood comes out, gets rid of the egg, basically, more or less. So, point is, these are the signs that I believe would make someone an empath, more being able to absorb people's feelings and stuff. I think it has a lot to do with the water signs. I think it has a lot to do with Jupiter. Because Jupiter takes on anything, and Jupiter's in everybody's sign, right? Jupiter's in everybody's fucking natal chart, and that's why you'll hear New Age and a lot of different things say that everybody can have these powers. Everybody has these powers. Just some people are more sensitive to it. And I thought maybe that was just like everybody's. Anyways, but. That's why I believe that, because first of all, what I know about Jupiter is that he expands anything that he's in, whatever sign and house he's in, he's going to expand that. He's going to make it bigger. To Jupiter, there's no such thing as too much of one thing. Basically, he's going to expand anything he is in. So if you have a disease or whatever, then and I don't know how that would make sense, but. For me, I like the fact that Jupiter's in my 11th house, because I know the 11th house is pretty important when it comes to financial stuff online, money, and making money, and different things like that. So my Jupiter is in Pisces, and it's in the 11th house. And my Mercury is in the 12th house, which is something to do with, has something to do with Pisces, because Pisces is like the ruler of the 12th house, right? It's the, yeah. And Jupiter is, well, maybe, I don't know. The first house is Aries, the second house is Taurus, right? Generally speaking, they go around, and that's where the houses are supposed to, they kind of go with those. So when you have those two, when you have the sign and the house that are the same, if you have that, then it's kind of a cohesion there. But it's very hard to do. There's only going to be a certain amount of people that do that. Because, like, for me, example, I was born at 5:30 a.m. So, technically, for my sun to have been in Aries, if you go by the 5:30 a.m., and it's in Taurus, right? And my Mercury is still in the 12th house, but it's before my ascendant line, and it's still in Taurus, because my 12th house is fucking huge. It's like, it's not a quarter, but it's like at least a sixth of my fucking chart, okay? Pisces, right? Or sorry, my 12th house, sorry. My 12th house is at least a sixth of my chart. And the same with its opposite house. The 6th house is the opposite of 12, right? Just like 1 is 7. People like to maybe think 1 and 6, 12 and 7. But no, 1 and 7 are opposites, right? So my ascendant is where my sun is, and my 7th house is where Saturn is. They're fucking opposite each other. How fucking awesome is that? That is fucking cool. No, it's not. It's fucking terrible. Jesus Christ. But anyways, and my 12th house is opposite of the 6th house, and my 6th house is just as fucking big as the 12th house. And it's in, so my 12th house goes from, it starts where, my 11th house, right? That's where Jupiter is. Jupiter is in my 11th house, but it's in Pisces. Yes. So, but my 11th house starts in Aquarius and then goes to the Pisces line, goes into Pisces. And then from there, my 12th house starts from that part of Pisces where the 11th house stops, and it goes all the way to Taurus. So it skips Aries. It skips the fire completely. I got nothing in there except for maybe Chiron, however you want to pronounce that. He's in there, okay? But he's almost on the Taurus line too. Like he's just out of it. It's crazy. But, so that's that. And my 6th house goes from, once again, so I skipped Aries, so then I skip Leo on the other side. So where my 4th house starts, my 5th house, so my 3rd house is in Cancer completely, all right? Because my 1st house is in Taurus, goes from Taurus to Gemini, right? And then my 2nd house is in Gemini, and then it starts in Cancer. And then my 3rd house starts in Cancer, and it stops in Cancer. And then my 4th house starts in Cancer, and it goes into, I guess it'd be Leo next, right? And then, so that's the 5th house, right? 4th house to 5th house. And then from the 5th house in Leo, it goes to this, that's where my 6th house starts, right? From Leo, and then it skips, be Virgo, and then skips. Jesus, I have to really check this, to be honest. I think I'm getting that mixed up, to be honest, a little bit. But anyways, so I know it goes, I'm pretty sure it skips all of Scorpio. Like I have Pluto in Scorpio, and my 6th house is kind of like in Scorpio, but it's not. It's something I have to look up, and I'm going to do that right now. All right, so anyways, I didn't want to look for it while I had you guys on here, so I just paused and started again. All right, so 1st house starts in Taurus and stops in Gemini. 2nd house starts in Gemini and stops in Cancer. 3rd house starts and stops in Cancer again. Then 4th starts in, 1, 2, 3. My 4th starts in Cancer and ends in Leo. My 5th starts in Leo and ends in Virgo. And then, see, this is what I was forgetting, was Libra. I always fucking forget Libra for somewhere before Scorpio. And so Libra is the one I'm missing on the opposite side of Aries, which I should have known, but because they're opposite each other. But anyways, because like I already know Taurus and Scorpio are opposite each other. And, because the 7 houses are opposite, right? The 1st and the 7th are opposite, right? Like in your chart. So the 1st sign and the 7th sign are going to be opposite each other, right? And technically, if your 1st house started in Aries, well, then your 7th house would be most likely in Libra. That's why some people can, make
assumptions. If your ascendant is this, well, then they can assume your descendant is this. Sometimes they're on, sometimes they're off, and it all depends on the degrees of where your ascendant starts. So if your ascendant is right at the beginning of Aries, well then yeah, it's going to be bang on. But if your ascendant is at the end of Aries, well, that's going to be off a little bit. So anyways, I don't have anything in Aries, and I don't have anything in Libra. Now, Libra is an air sign, and Aries is a fire sign. They're both male signs, right? They're both positive signs, okay? So this is big for somebody who, like me, who, like I said, I'm a man. I'm a heterosexual man who likes women, but I'm an agreeable person, which is a woman's trait. I want to help, and I rather work and do stuff with people. And at the same time, I don't like being around too many people either, which is kind of a weird fucking paradox. But when I really think about it, to me, that feels like it would be fulfilling, but at the same time, it also feels kind of anxiety filled and, potentially something, I don't want to do. But yeah, so for some reason I thought it skipped Scorpio, but no, it doesn't skip Scorpio, it skips, which kind of would have been a good thing because that's a female trait. But no, my 7th house starts in Scorpio. Yeah, because my 6th house starts in Virgo and it ends in Scorpio. So, and to be honest, like, right, you normally have to take into account, like, if your sign, like my first house is in Taurus, right, because it starts in Taurus and ends in Gemini. So does that mean you have to take half of Gemini's traits and half of Taurus's traits, and you add that to what the first house means, and that means you? Probably. That's probably exactly what that means whenever it comes to it. The first house is all about your identity. You know what I mean? Because that's normally where your sun is, right? So you identify with Taurus because my sun is technically in Taurus. My ascendant line is in Taurus, right? So, but the first house completely goes from Taurus to Gemini, and Gemini is air, it's in your head, and Taurus is earth. So I got a plus and a minus right there, boom, part of my first house. And then my second house is the same thing, which is probably why it's arranged like this, right? It's probably why the smart fuckers did it like this. Because if you look, Aries and Taurus are beside each other, and then Taurus and Gemini are beside each other, and then Gemini and Cancer beside each other, and Cancer and Leo are beside each other. So there's always a plus and a minus, plus and a minus, plus and a minus, plus and a minus. There's nowhere on here where there's not a plus and a minus. They're all, it's all like that. That's how this thing works. So every one of your houses are balanced, right? Well, should be, unless you're me. Because if you take what I just said, right? If you take my 12th house starts in Pisces and ends in Taurus. And I have Aries in the middle of that. But technically, if you go by those two lines, so the beginning of that and the end of that is in two negative signs. Just like on the opposite side. Just like my 12th house and my 6th house. My 6th house starts in Virgo and ends in Scorpio, another earth and water combo. And then I have Pluto in Scorpio. It couldn't have been in the fucking Libra. And if you go on the opposite side, same thing, my Mercury, right? It's in that 12th house, but it's not between where Aries is. It's in it's in Taurus, right? Now, technically, like I said, right here, the symbol they're giving me is North Node. And like I said before, I call that Cryon. And the only reason I said that is not because I think it's Cryon or North Node or anything like that. The reason I said that is because that's what it was on the other site that I use. This is one from Astrolabe, and the other one's from like Astrodontist, and then Astro.com and AstroSeek. Like, I've done many of them just to make sure, they're all accurate, because like I said, I overthink everything, right? But anyway, so my North Node is, that would be my North Node, which is Chiron, is in Aries technically, right? And remember I said your South Node is what your past life you were good at, where your talent might be. So if your South Node isn't on your chart, but your North Node is, or vice versa, or you have Cryon, whatever, it's like Chronos, right? That kind of spelling, CH, right? Not like Cryon, the guy I put on here who's a channeler. But if you have that there, that's your North Node. So directly opposite that, okay, on the opposite side, the opposite degree, the opposite house is where your South Node would be. And that's where your talent would lie, or what you're good at, what you're going to gravitate towards because it's comfortable, but your north node is what you should be doing, is what you're supposed to experience in this life, right? So this is what I said before. So my south node would be technically right across where Pluto is, funny enough, basically, who's retrograde too. But I got two signs there. I got Pluto there, and it's the retrograde sign, and then, yeah, it's in Scorpio. So yeah, anyway, so my place where I'm comfortable is in Scorpio, which is also in that 6th house. But Scorpio, water, healing, sex, death, transformation. So basically, all this occult stuff I'm talking about and shit that, is coming to me that I'm doing, Scorpio is all about that, right? Mercury with the fucking caduceus, it's first the Scorpio, then it's the snake, and then it's the phoenix transformation. This shit is what apparently, if you go by like the Vedic or this north and south node way, and if you don't believe me, I'm not just saying this to toot my horn or anything like that. I promise you that's not what I'm doing. I'll put my picture of my thing up there too for everybody, maybe for my picture for this show. But technically, that's what that means. So where your south node is where you're going to be good at. So maybe if you're one of those people that don't know what your talent is or anything like that, or don't really know what you should be doing, or if you have a purpose, or you feel like you don't have any talent, get your birth chart, check out where your south node is, and see if that makes sense, and see if that sparks anything in your head. Because to me, like I said, I like to talk about my grandma and her healing powers and the witch and all that in the family, and I like talking about how lately my fucking everything I've been doing comes easily to me, right? So, and like I said in a few episodes ago, could I stay home and just keep manifesting money, just using magic, keep healing and doing shit like that? Probably. If you go by what my south node is in Scorpio, now you'd have to look at the 6th house, and what does Pluto retrograde mean in Scorpio and all that, because that's exactly where my south node would be. So that might play no effect in that too. And that's my descendant line, right? My ascendant is Taurus, right? And it's right in the middle of Taurus, and that's where my sun is, right? And my descendant is Scorpio, right? And that's where Pluto is. That's where my south node is. So if you look at this on terms of, your identity, who you think you are, but more importantly, who you project to be out to the world, right? Because like I said, I've always been very Venusian to the fact that I have green eyes, for God's sakes, but I have always been pretty cocky, like as a child in high school, thinking I was a good-looking guy. I had a lot of girlfriends. I've only liked nice clothes, you know what I mean? I did what was popular because I was a skateboarder and I liked heavy fucking music, but I also played on the football team, played rugby, played hockey, played a little bit of volleyball and basketball, but I played a lot of fucking sports and shit like that. I was very athletic all my life. I've very much put out there that, I'm this Taurus guy, I'm this, very person who likes valuable things and whatever, likes to look good. Up until probably recently now, I don't care as much. But so that would be like your conscious mind, or that would be your identity you project out to people. But really, the other half of you, your dark side, maybe that's your light side, and maybe that's your dark side. I like to look at it conscious and subconscious mind, because I wouldn't want to put one of these. But technically, I don't know which one would be good or bad. But both my conscious and unconscious mind one is earth and one is water. So right there tells you something about this whole negative thing I'm talking about. How if you look at your birth chart, it's going to tell you which flow you're good at, and more than that, it's going to tell you if you're an agreeable or disagreeable person. More than that, it's going to tell you if you're like doing something that has to do with things, like Peterson puts, or if you like doing things with people. Are you going to be a nurse, or are you going to be a fucking somebody who's a computer engineer or a coder, or are you going to be a daycare person, or are you going to be a mechanic? You know what I mean? That's the difference. And that's the one thing I wanted to say that I probably didn't say, or maybe I did, but I said it in a different way. Like, these women, and I'm not dissing women, okay? Because all these moms and older women or activists just want what's best for women, and there's nothing fucking wrong with that. Because if we're taught that women have been oppressed, then yeah, it only makes sense that they don't want that to happen again. And that's not bad. That's not bad what they're doing. But if that isn't real, if what we were taught isn't completely real, obviously there was oppression. Okay, obviously. But, if it's not completely the way it looks, if women didn't work until a certain time because, the time of the month thing happened and they didn't want to be at work and have to deal with that, or the whole baby thing. They were having so many kids at one point, and they just couldn't stop because there was no condoms or no birth control. So it just made sense because they had to have someone home with the kids. And if all the jobs out there were primarily lifting and grunt labor and shit like that, then it would only make sense for the man to do it and have the woman home with the kids. And I'm not trying to sound like a dick. In our today's day and age, with all the things we got, that is no longer relevant. That is no longer the system or the society, and that is a great fucking thing. But back then, none of us lived back then to know how it was. All we can do is read other people's opinions and then make up our own opinion. Hopefully we don't adopt their opinion, but generally, taking people's opinions about specific things that happened in history is probably the wrong way to look at history. Okay? The best way to look at history is to find facts. Is just to find how things were, okay? And what I mean by that is if you're trying to figure out why women didn't work, well then where you live, your society, your country, your state, your province, whatever, your town, take a year that you wanna look at, okay, and maybe start from there. So say it's the 1800s or 1850. Let's say it's before World War I, but after that American the Civil War or whatever. Let's say it's somewhere in there, okay. Well, pick that time and look and see if you can find what jobs are being offered out there. Look to see if you can see how many people, how many children per home we're having. Look to see how much disease there was out there. Look to see how many things, maybe how long people were living, okay? Because if women were living longer than men, then how were men oppressing women? If women were living longer than them, right? And if these women were at home raising their little boys and the little boys had to go out and work, you know what I mean? Like my parents, they didn't, they're not even in their 60s yet. Oh no, they are. My parents are in their 60s. So, I keep thinking they're still in their 50s, but they're in their 60s. They're not retirement yet, so it's early 60s. But point is, my dad, he stopped going to school to get a job, and that was accepted when he did it. But his father, my mother's father, they had to stop going to school to help at home, to help work. All right? That's not oppression. These guys having jobs and women not having jobs, it's not like the men were holding the women back. Sometimes women got to go to school the whole time. And if that happened in today's day and age, if for some reason we were pulling women out of school, well, that would be called oppression, would it not? And if men got to go to school till completion, right, that would be called, okay, well, the men are oppressing the women. How come men get to go all the way through school? I think the problem is that we're comparing each other to each other. Well, we got to stop doing that. We got to stop comparing men to women and just generalizing. I watched one of the things where Peterson was on, and it's like two girls that I guess are against feminists or whatever, which I'm not for or against anybody. So to me, I wasn't going to watch it, but I watched it anyways. And the one girl, she was talking about how women were complaining that male nurses were getting paid more than women nurses, and so someone went to study and see why that was, and it's because, well, the male nurses, they would start, but maybe their ambition was higher. They were willing to work more hours, and most of them started being anesthesiologists and different things like that, sedating people and doing things like that, whereas the women weren't as interested in that. They liked what they did. Why is that? Well, the anesthesiologist has to deal with more things, has to figure out how much of this put in a person. What is this guy doing? You're saying, well, that guy's still dealing with a person. Yeah, but he put in a fucking person to sleep. He doesn't have to deal with them, whereas a nurse has to actually deal with people. So the women are choosing to stay and deal with the people, help the people that are sick get the help they need, whereas the men, if they're going to anesthesiologists or doing other places where you only need a nurse to maybe administer a certain machine, like a sonogram or your X-ray or something like that. It's not always a doctor, but that's where these nurses were going. They're going into those fields where it's a one-on-one, but they're dealing with a machine or they're dealing with a chemical. You know what I mean? To them, they're feeling more important than just dealing with people, because to them, for some reason, dealing with things is more important than dealing with people. But to the women, dealing with the people is more important than dealing with that. So they don't change that. Plus, the women want to get home and have their family life as well. They want to work, to say they work, but they want to have their family life. Or maybe they just have to work. You know what I mean? But the problem is we're comparing. We're just looking at the data and saying, well, men are making more than women. They're both nurses. but they don't look at the sub things. And maybe they did look at that and they just decide not to look at it. You know what I mean? But that's not right. We got to stop comparing that. It should be on personal preference. My wife makes way more than I do. Way more than I do. And why is that? Well, I can give you a ton of reasons. First of all, she's more disagreeable and I'm more agreeable. So she's a woman with a man energy. I'm a man with a woman energy. That's why we fit so fucking good together. That's why this works so well. Because I'm a man and she's a woman and we're attracted to each other like that. And at the same time, her disagreeableness with her ex, who was also disagreeable, they clashed. Her and her other ex, they clashed. Me and my last ex, we clashed because we were both agreeable. Me and my last ex, we clashed because we were both agreeable. I had to, because I'm a male, so I'm not your typical disagreeable male, I had to find an agreeable female. And I did. Thank God, too. It was getting fucking rough. And maybe that's why I have quote-unquote good looks, because I had to have many partners to be able to find the right one, because I wasn't just your typical man who's going to get along with a typical woman. And I'm not saying I'm special or not normal. I'm saying that I'm not part of the 60% of men who are disagreeable. I am part of the 40% of men that are agreeable. 60% of men are disagreeable, 40% of men are agreeable. 60% of women are agreeable, 40% of men are disagreeable. So the smaller your town, the smaller your odds are finding the right person like that. And, you can believe in soulmates and all that. And, maybe it's not necessarily about soulmates, but maybe it's about having the right energies put together. If I have mostly negative and she has mostly positive, then it works. We're in cohesion, which also plays on what Birch said today. He says, anything outside of the circle, like attracts like, works when it comes to spirits and shit like that, ethereal, occult, esoteric, things like that, right? But when you're in the mundane, in the physical realm, opposites attract. Positive attracts negative. They go, isn't it? And to me, I'm not completely convinced that it's an actually attracting thing, that we attract each other. Then it's more that we're in cohesion, because everything needs both positive and negative. Right? You need plus and you need minus. And you should strive to be in between those and not on the one side or the other. So if my wife was completely on the plus and I was completely on the minus, well, then we're going to be attracted to each other that way. But then as we come together, her pluses, when they add it to my minus, make us more in neutrality. And we find peace and balance. And we're able to raise 4 children. Maybe when people get together and they can't have children, it's because maybe they don't have the right balance to make those children appropriately. So, and there's things that come into play like, okay, well, yeah, your cell phone made your fucking balls stop working. But really, it's not about that. And maybe these people work together. Maybe they want to be together, and maybe they weren't meant to do that. Maybe it's a hard hurdle they have to go through, or maybe when they get with 2 different partners, it can happen. Things have happened. Weird things have happened. And I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just throwing those ideas out there. But Birch said on his thing today, he's been experimenting, and it's worth everybody's to look into it. And it was one of the things I wanted to mention the other night when I was talking about using negative flow to bring things to you, right? Which is kind of like the opposite attracts, is it not? Because everybody thinks positive, waxing moon, that's when you get the money to you, right? That's when you bring the money to you. And negative is when you pull stuff from you, right? Well, if in the mundane world, if you're doing mundane magic, physical magic, just something fast that you need right away, you have to explore the thing that opposites attract. To get something that's positive, you might need to use negativity or something negative. And to get something negative, either out of you or to you, you might have to use something positive. Now, that's not when you're in the circle. When you're in the circle, like attracts like. So when you're trying to bring that energy to you, okay, of the money or whatever, then you need to be grateful and act as if you already have it. Because like attracts like. That's why I like to say thoughts. Think of thoughts as spirits, because when Birch says the physical is opposite attracts. I wouldn't say that goes for your thoughts, because if you're in a negative fucking feeling, you're going to get negative thoughts. You're not going to get positive thoughts. And if you're feeling pretty positive, I mean positivity and negativity, okay? I'm not talking about energies. I'm talking about how you feel. If you're feeling happy, you're going to get happy thoughts. If you're feeling bad, you're going to get bad thoughts. So your thoughts are of a spiritual nature. They are like spirits around you. And if you want the good ones to come to you, you need to have good feelings. And if you want bad ones to come to you, you need to have bad feelings. Now, if you're trying to manifest something, okay, and you're using, oh, I'm so grateful for all the money, well then, yeah, the more you can be in that feeling of gratitude, then the faster that will come to you. But what Birch is talking about, the opposites attracting each other, okay? That's kind of what I was going on whenever different parts of the moon, whenever you're trying to go against the current more or less. In a mundane way, you can do different things. You can change how you view. I'll get into that a little later. I'm getting sidetracked. I don't want to keep concentrating on the chart there and explaining the men and women things. But so right there, my Taurus is my ascendant and Scorpio is my descendant. So my subconscious mind is the sex, death, and transformation sign. The sign of the occult, the fucking snake, the fucking devil in the Garden of Eden, the fucking caduceus healing staff, okay? Whenever Mercury is in Scorpio is one of the best times to do healing magic. So, and that's what Frater said, okay? But it's a water sign like any other water sign. And there's a reason that Jupiter, all right, Pisces, there's a reason, and I've said this many times, but fucking Cancer ribbon is a fucking Pisces fish. And I don't even have to say, Cancer, what the fuck? That's another water sign. It's literally, and the word Cancer, Cancerian, it has to do with a type of like learning. There's the learning by hands-on. There's learning by like reading, comprehending, and there's I forget the word. I wrote it down. It actually starts with a K, but it sounds like the Cancer word. It's a canesthetic or something like that. Canesthetic or canesthetic. Anyways, it's when you feel something to learn. And those people generally learn faster than the other two. And that could be one of these empathic things or whatever. But if you don't know you have it, then it could be totally crippling. And so, yeah, there's the way that anyways, I'm just going to leave that alone there. But where I'm going with this there. I've already said it before. The fucking Pisces fish being the ribbon, Cancer, the other fucking water sign taking the name of the disease, you know what I mean? Like, and then, the people that have to try to fix the Cancer wear the fucking, have the caduceus on them with a snake on it, right? Fucking Scorpio right there. The second sign of fucking, which is the best sign for healing, more or less. And that's why the medical field wear that, you know what I mean? I mean, it's just right in your face, but I'm not going to keep getting into that. But anyway, so, once again, my ascendant and my descendant are earth and water. So, ghost. Now, if my ascendant and my descendant are earth and water, right there. So you have 7 energy centers in your body, and we consider those the 7. We go with the 7 planets for that, right? Now, the tree of life is a little more elaborate. It's got more energy centers, but there's technically more planets and stuff you could also put on there. And if you can study, If you can study the Kabbalah, the Kabbalistic tree of life, whether it's through Kabbalah or any kind of, because sometimes the yogis are, there's a lot of different practices that use it. So if you can study that, go for it, because it's a little more elaborate and a little more easier. And I think that's why it's harder to put the 7 planets in the chakras, because they don't all fit well in there. Because the 7 planets break down into the 12 signs, you know what I mean? Water, fire, they break down to the water, fire, air, and earth, right? But, like both the moon and Jupiter are water signs, right? But one's male, one's female. So where do you put that on your body? Whereas the moon and Jupiter, right? Jupiter, they can rule more than one sign, and those signs can be in different places on your body. And that's something you need to take into account, right? So like if Jupiter it has something to do with, making if Jupiter is in the sign of Cancer, then the woman's breasts are bigger because Cancer is the breast. But I've seen Jupiter being part of the sacral chakra, right? And then I've seen the moon also being there because women's menstrual cycles, it controls that. So there's a lot of debate on that. But anyways, so knowing where the planets are, it's a good way to know your energy, and it's a good thing to know, like, if you have male or female energy. Now, going by the 7 planets, hopefully you have a good mix. Now, like I said, I got the one chart I used had a big variety, had a few extras on there, so it looked worse than it was. And they also had AC and MC on there, which is important, which is actually really important because I'm going to add that to that. So that's something I'm going to, I would say, take into account as well, because the 7 energies in your body, let's say, let's go with the chakras and the 7 planets, right? Well, that's going to be your energy flow, your chakras and all that. But what's also important is your AC and MC, if that is like your conscious and your subconscious, and then your MC and your IC. Well, what would that be? Well, conscious, unconscious, right? It could be fucking the physical plane. It could be the spiritual plane. Those are the other 2. It could be, you know what I mean? It could be the 4 directions, right? Like if you look at your MC and your AC, for me, one is earth and one is water. So if I had the next 2 being fire and air, well, then it makes sense, right? Because we are made up of the elements. The elements are very important in magic, right? But for me, that's not the case. I have, once again, fire, or I have water and earth. Once again, I have my if I can bring it up here again. Shit, I think I might have closed it. I had them all open though. So yeah, I have Cancer as my MC, and I have that's Capricorn as my IC. So my other makeup, if AC and MC, or if you're ascendant and descendant, or your conscious and your subconscious mind, well, whatever you want to believe your MC and IC represent, and I have my own opinions, but I'm not going to get into that now because they'll probably won't stop talking about it if I do. That's another part of your makeup, basically. So take the 7 planets into account. You can even take the other ones if you want into account too, because they do help make you up, right? They do affect you. Why do these planets affect us? Well, because they're above us, below us, within us, and without us, right? So as above, so below might be the AC, or might be the MC and the IC, and as within, so without should be the other 2, right? Because your conscious and subconscious are within and without, right? Your subconscious, basically, it takes everything in, but it creates reality around you, and your conscious is the one you're projecting out there. You project your consciousness onto people, onto things, and all that. But you also have to learn what your consciousness too. But that would be more the as within, so without, and as above, so below. So your AC and your MC, your IC and your MC might be like, your higher self, and then because the MC, your IC. Your MC has to do with family. So maybe that's like, because it's going below, right? So maybe it's like your ancestors, your family line, where you come from. But the above part is, like, well, your higher self, what it's like, or what it may be, or whatever the case is. I don't know. But mine is all negative. It's all water and earth, receptive, right? Fucking put dirt on a fire, it kills the fire, it absorbs the fire. Water also does the same thing. They both absorb. So I have a negative flow, basically, to me. So, and that's huge. And I know it's not the case that if you have earth and water as your AC and your MC, or AC, your ascendant and your descendant, that you're also going to have your IC and MC being the same thing, being earth and water. It's not the case, because mine is like my vertical line, because you're the one going up and down, as above, so below one. The one going up and down is it's not just straight. It's not a complete vertical line. It is on on an angle, a diagonal. And mine is going on a diagonal from like Capricorn to Cancer. So if you know where that kind of is. Anyways, it's on an angle, basically, on a slant. But my daughter, Sienna, who has, she has Taurus as her descendant, as Scorpio as her ascendant, which is the opposite of me, okay? She has the opposite as me. Well, her line goes the other way. Technically, though, going by mine, right? If you put her Taurus on my Taurus, it would line up. But technically, her Taurus is her descendant, so it goes on the opposite side. So her angle is opposite, and she has fire and air as her bottom one is air, and her top one's fire, I believe. Let me see if I can find it. She is going from, if I look at mine, she's like that. I throw that on the opposite side, and that would make, I think she goes from Leo. Yeah, she's from Leo to Aquarius on an angle. And it's just the way her, where she is in Taurus, how it differs from mine. So yeah, she has all 4 fucking elements in her chart, which is awesome. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I have more to say about this, but unfortunately it's my time to go off to work. So being that it's Friday, if I either get off early or whenever I'm done, I will try to come on tonight and finish this thought. And if not, it'll happen tomorrow. So yeah, if I don't talk to you tonight, well, enjoy your weekend. And yeah, talk to you soon. Have a good one.